Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to talk about the idea of what I call late stage Yu-Gi-Oh! And if you're hearing that, you're probably thinking, oh god, what are you talking about this time? I understand. This is basically the idea that Yu-Gi-Oh! It's gone on for 25 years. Konami wouldn't let us forget it for a while. But like any game or its franchise, IP, or whatever that goes on that long, things change and develop and mature over time, both internally, as in the game itself, and also externally, the players and the people that play with and engage with it. And it can have some really good parts, some benefits, and also maybe some negatives, some downsides, some ramifications. And so I wanted to discuss how I sort of feel about it and also hear what other people think about this late stage Yu-Gi-Oh! That we are living in. So, obviously, there are some really great parts about Yu-Gi-Oh! Today, some really amazing conveniences that we have that did not always exist. For instance, we always know about the release of new cards long ahead of time. Like, literally, whenever cards get revealed in the OCG, they're translated within like the hour and posted on Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization, Reddit, Twitter. We've got these sites like Yu-Gi-Oh! News TCG where you can just immediately see a new card and its effects and the art, and it's in great detail and it's very easy to share. If you think about just how easy it is to find those images, toss them into your group chat or your Discord or whatever, and people can just know what's coming up. In addition to that, there's so much coverage that's done on the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene in Japan and the OCG that we oftentimes even know what formats might look like ahead of time, what decks we can expect to be strong, what decks kind of seem like they underperformed, what tech cards are people messing around with over in OCG land before it comes to the TCG so we can get new ideas to play with before they're even around. In addition to that, there are loads of other nice things like being able to know card value and card prices on hand. Like, because we've got smartphones, it's extremely easy to just look up the price of a card that you're trying to trade for or buy. And that helps a lot because it means that it's not likely that you'll just get scammed outright. I remember a period of time where it was not really the case that either of these two things existed. For instance, with card reveals, you might remember Shriek TCG if you're like a real old head. It was one of those sites that would do like OCG card reveals and try to translate them, but it was just very obscure and very niche, and like not everybody really knew about it. Oftentimes, when a new set came out, people were just like, "Oh, I have no clue what's in here besides the basic idea of maybe the cover card." And similarly with trades, it was really easy to get scammed, particularly if you're like a newer or a younger player and you just didn't know the value of your cards. Somebody like might pull a card that's worth like $80 and not know that it's worth $80, or even just like a card that's worth $12 because it's a common that recently went up in price, like maybe Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind in like 2009 or whatever. It was like a rare that was worth about $10 for a while, but like if you're a random kid, you might not have known that and had a couple of copies of Gale and gotten scammed out of them and whatever, right? And so this has made things like trading and buying a lot safer and like just more protected for new or more vulnerable people. In addition to that, there are just other nice things like, again, event coverage has evolved a lot. We get more, not all, but more live streams for YCS events. And there's just way more resources available, more places to talk about the game online, more tools and guides and stuff like that. So, late stage Yu-Gi-Oh! In that way seems like it's really good. I mean, there's just a lot of benefits, right? It's easier than ever to like get the resources you need to improve at the game, quickly learn what cards you need to buy, quickly find the values of those cards, and even know what's on the horizon. So, why then do I frame it as though it might be a bad thing? Well, some people feel that late stage Yu Gi Oh!, although I guess they're not calling it that, but the sentiment that I've sort of gleaned from a lot of people is that Yu Gi Oh! Doesn't feel the same anymore. And this gets a little bit nebulous because it kind of varies from person to person. But effectively, we're kind of talking about the whole idea that, like, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Today, there maybe are people who feel like there's not as much creativity in deck building, or there's not as much discovery in new cards and packs. So, for instance, if a new set comes out and we already kind of know what the best deck in the set or what the best cards to get are going to be, then it means that people spend a lot less time filtering through the commons and the other interesting stuff. And so there's less of a chance that a card can sort of like come out of nowhere and surprise people and be really playable. Somebody might stumble onto some cool tech card. And I do remember that when I was first getting into like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, we're talking kind of 2008, 2009, this was a much more common occurrence. People might kind of find a card that they didn't know was good until a few months or even sometimes years after the fact as the metagame would evolve. But nowadays, it does sometimes feel like decks and combos and stuff get solved like day one, hour one even, right? Like a new archetype gets revealed and people have already labbed out combos for it. and posted them online. And so it's kind of like, man, do you prefer that the game be something where like you can quickly get that solved or nearly solved information, or do you want more time to sort of like experiment and learn on your own? And that's not to say that you can't just sort of disconnect yourself from it. Like no one's forcing you to watch combos of the new archetype the moment that it comes out, but it certainly is a thing that will kind of reach you through Yu-Gi-Oh! Osmosis in some form or fashion. And some people don't like that. Some people like the sense of discovery and they feel that that's lost. Also, as far as, card values and secondary market being determined, I think that this one's a little bit different. Generally, I like that you kind of can just know what your cards are worth because I don't want people getting scammed. I've gotten scammed plenty when I was just getting into the game, and I don't think that that's one of those things where like the kids today need to experience getting ripped off in trades to build character. No, it's really not like that. But I do think that there has been increasingly a greater and greater sentiment towards like, it's buying singles, right? Like don't buy the sealed packs, just buy the singles. It's better expected value, and that's true, but I do think that maybe back in the day, people were more willing to buy sealed product from their card shop just for the magic of opening packs or maybe to support their locals. And it's gotten a little bit tricky because like I still think that buying singles is just the way to go, but like I sometimes feel sympathetic towards my card shop when they can't sell a box for the $90 MSRP that it is. It sucks though because it's like, well, should I buy a $90 box that I'm definitely not going to make my money back on just to support my locals? I don't know. I do like to buy a few stray packs here and there, like just for fun. Like I'll buy like one or two, but it is getting harder and harder to like justify buying boxes. And I think that with late stage Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of this sort of begins to compound because like it's easy to almost get a little bit jaded towards the game of Yu-Gi-Oh in general. The idea that all the decks are solved, the idea that the packs aren't worth anything and I should just barely buy any singles, just a few things that I want. The idea that trading is kind of dead at local card shops. That's something that I've seen and experienced quite a bit of myself. People sometimes don't even have trade binders at all, or they don't really bring their trade binders to locals. Trades just don't really happen. In fact, most people just buy the cards they need, even if we're not talking like buying singles on TCG Player, just like the trades at locals are more like, you have it, I'll PayPal you the money, I'll Venmo you the money, right? So there's less trading and therefore less of that collecting magic there. And I have to say, too, that it's not like the old way was necessarily better in that regard. Like, just like with the card value thing, trades could still just involve getting ripped off. So, like, I don't know if it was actually perfect or anything like that. And you could even say that old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever, however grand and rose-tinted it might have looked, still had a metagame, still had known best cards and decks that dominated. So that feeling of discovery and individuality might have been something that was more so just in the heads of like a casual Yugi boomer type, as opposed to something that actually existed. It might have just been sort of the nostalgia of the playground where you played that had a bunch of kids who didn't have internet and stuff and just watched the anime. But like maybe it wasn't as real as it seemed. It's hard to say. I mean, like, I don't know if I have a necessary preference. I think that basically late stage Yu-Gi-Oh can sometimes feel a little bit sterile, I will admit. But I do think that, like, overall, I still prefer it to how things were back in the past. Partly because back in the past, I couldn't buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards for myself anyway. So, like, it wasn't a matter of, like, oh, buy a box versus buying singles. I was, however many years old in elementary school, and I could not buy packs on my own accord. So maybe that's, like, just a better just me being older helps out. But like, I don't know. I kind of it's a very left and right thing. Like I'm not really sure how we feel, not left and right in like the political sense, but like just, it's multifaceted thing. And I want to hear how people feel about this. Where do you land? Do you prefer Yu-Gi-Oh now where things feel like they're solved, the information's right out there, but maybe it's less experimental and fun? Or do you prefer, like that method because it's you want efficiency and you want speed and you want to be able to kind of like get into the game faster. And this is all to not even be talking about the actual power creep and game design and stuff because that's sort of a different conversation. Although a connected one. I don't know. Let me know how you feel about it. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. I'll be reading and hopefully being able to respond to a few as well. You like late stage Yu-Gi-Oh, or do you think that maybe this is just more of my bullshit rambling? Which it is. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.